Good evening. I have to say evening because it's socially unacceptable to say good night in this context, because this is an introduction and good night is good night, alright? I'm tired and I had a thought in the shower and here I am. Disclaimer, I have not read the manga, nor have I thought this through. I got out of the shower 10 minutes ago and I'm talking now. Okay, we good? Yeah. I know about as much about the Reiss family as I have found out from watching some Foxen anime videos, reading some manga spoilers, and watching till the end of season 3 about 6 months ago. So if I forgot something, rip, but I'm talking about the concept here. Okay, thank you. In Attack on Titan, years and years and years ago, Ymir Fritz is the first one to ever receive the power of a Titan. She gets the founding Titan, right? And so she passes it down to Titans. I believe there are 13. 9 or 13. There's a number larger than 7 of Titan types. So like your Colossal, your Armored, your Card, which you find out in season 2 or 3. So there are a bunch of types of Titans, which all come from this one original Titan. But there's one family that can control all of these, right? So you've got your Titan shifters or whatever, but there's one family that can control all of them, and that's the reisses. It's the original royal family of the original city Eldia, and essentially the person with the power to turn into the founding Titan, who also has royal blood, controls like the whole thing. We find out about like all these powers that the person who holds the founding Titan can have, right? Like they can erase memories, they can like make entire civilizations just completely reset, they can control other Titans, all that stuff. And what happens is that with all of these powers, there's like a price you have to pay. So if you're a member of the royal Eldian family, the Reisses, or you have their blood running through you, so like we see Rod Reiss's daughter, Krista. If you were to gain the power of the founding Titan, you end up gaining the mentality, like the beliefs, the memories, and the mentality of everyone before you. The Reisses have like a great responsibility, but it comes at the cost of giving up their beliefs, their mentality, even their own memories, and just have all of that be overtaken by that of those that came before them, though the ruling class before them. So even if they wanted to change the status quo, to make things better, to kill all Titans, whatever, they can't do it, right? The best example of this happens within the show. We see Rod Reiss as a child and his brother really hate the way that their father, the king, runs like the whole city, whatever. But the second Rod Reiss's brother takes over the power and he gets like the Titan gunk injected into him, suddenly he becomes exactly like their father. And that's when Rod realizes that like, okay, so definitely you cannot like, that's when he like, it hits him, this curse probably can't be broken, I believe. And then yeah, when his daughter takes it over, at the point right before she takes over the founding Titan, and she's supposed to like govern all the other Titans and all the other Eldians, she's like, don't worry, I will definitely break the curse. I'm definitely going to do all these things that I want to do to help save our people. But the second she takes on like that burden and she has the Titan gunk injected into her, she becomes exactly like Rod Reiss's brother, father, and everyone before him. And this is where I'm going to stop giving you context about Attack on Titan, because I'm finally going to talk about the topic, okay? What I'm saying is essentially, a lot of times it seems that as a kid, you feel like nobody with power understands you. So yeah, they can sympathize, like, yes, I understand you're going through pain right now. Yes, I know that it's been rough, but you need to grow up. And it's so weird, isn't it? Because you're there, you're like this tall, and you ask yourself, if all of these people were my age before, and presumably went through something similar before, why is it that they don't understand what I'm going through right now, right? I think every kid understands that childhood, tough shit. I can bet you don't remember a lot of the happy things that happened to you as a kid, but something made you upset, something made you traumatized, or something made you feel like the world was unfair, and you remember that. As a kid, everything is so memorable, and as a human being, everything is especially memorable if it's bad, because that's how we are wired. You remember bad things so that you know the circumstances that lead up to it, and you know what to avoid. But usually, if you're doing something right, it ends up well. It's how it's supposed to be. However, you don't remember that process as well, right? And combined with the fact that as a child, the reason why your emotions are so strong is because everything's happening to you for the first time. When you break up your first girlfriend, that's highly likely that that's the worst time it's going to be, or at least you're going to have the worst time coping with it as a kid when you're younger. Similarly, you have your first crush. It's so strong the first time because you've never had to deal with it before that. You either get used to it or you get desensitized, and you get desensitized fast. The fact that we are wired to remember bad things, the fact that we are wired to adapt quickly, especially to new things as an adult as you grow older, and the fact that everything is so new to you because it's happening to you the first time, and that's when your emotions are strongest. All those put together means that of course adults can never understand children. So there's a terrifying possibility I'm going to grow up, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to buy a house, have a husband, have children, and that child's going to grow up, and at some point I will face the dilemma of my child is in pain, but the mentality I have is of a grown-up, right? Similar to the Reiss family, in which when they take on the responsibility of the founding titan, have to go through this immense change to the point where they don't even remember the beliefs they had before they took on the responsibility. When we grow up to be adults, there's a high likelihood that we are going to forget what we went through as kids and take on the mentality of someone that pays bills and has to send their kid through school. Let's say I've just been fired from my job and my kid comes back and they've had their first ever failing grade. I am naturally going to kick into let's solve it mode. It's okay. The easiest solution is of course to study, to tell them to study. However, that's not what they want to hear, because there's a chance that they believe at that age that they studied their ass off, that at the age of 9, studying your ass off means reading the textbook twice and doing the work once, and dude, that's all I can manage in a night. And honestly, that's valid. You're 9. So, coming from the perspective of an adult, you are never going to feel the same pain your kid does unless they're going through something you've never gone through before or you have rarely had to deal with. And even then, you probably have to be highly empathetic or very good at visualizing to really feel the pain that they're going through. This means that inherently, I'm going to forget. We are all going to forget what we went through as children, and it's going to bite us in the ass when we have children, because how are we supposed to deal with such emotional creatures? The child is the most emotional, emotionally flippant, emotionally volatile, but also the most incredibly happy and joyful and curious thing on the planet, right? How are you, as a jaded, gone through everything once to 10 times before adult, supposed to keep up with that? Let's bring it back to Attack on Titan. If I, a headstrong young person, want to effect change in the world, and I know that I can really do that when I'm an adult, I start doing more research, I start learning about other people's experiences. If I really care about what the terrible things that are happening in the world, and I want to effect change, and I really want to use whatever money and platform I have in the future to effect that change, I'm going to learn more about it. But that also comes at the cost of most likely me and you, everyone, becoming so used to it. And you shouldn't be used to it. But if you hear the same news 3 times over, you are the most okay with it and the least affected by it the 3rd time. Every time, right? So, if I were Reiss's daughter and I had all these ideals. I was like, okay, I'm gonna save my people. I'm going to get all these titans out of here. The second I take on that responsibility, and I see everything that the others have had to go through. Granted, brainwashing is definitely a part of it. Aaron is a young, headstrong kid when he gets all this power, and it doesn't change him because he's not part of that family. But if you were to experience the full effects of that brainwashing and the taking on of that power, wouldn't it just be like a hyper sped up version of what we have to go through? In that she forgoes everything she used to believe in so that she can properly run a country. Granted, doesn't happen, but the intent is there. And suddenly you see it, in the sense that most likely as an adult, you are going to be the most jaded you have ever been. By the time you're 65, you're going to be so jaded that if your kid comes home fuming because their boss has just yelled at them, and their boss has slapped them across the face, it's all you can do to look at them and say, you know what, for the sake of you paying off your mortgage, for the sake of you supporting your wife and kids, turn the other cheek, let him slap that one too. It's not what your kid's gonna want to hear. It's probably not what you would have said 30 years ago, 40 years ago. When you were a kid, you would have said that. You probably might not have even said that 10 years ago. But with everything you've gone through as an adult, I highly doubt any of us are going to be quite in this position with this mindset when we are that old to think, no, this is my child. I'm going to stick up for them, and not just stick up for them, I'm going to emotionally connect to them. Tragic as it is, and honestly one of the reasons why I probably don't want to have children, is the fact that I am, as I am, currently 18 years old, just turned 18, legally an adult technically, but like barely. I am highly emotional. Everything affects me to the nth degree. Everything is a new experience. Everyone in my household who's that much older than me has gone through that a zillion times over, with their bosses, with their lecturers, with the freaking people who have to give them peer evaluation, so they just have to suck it up and be nice even if the person sucks. They are not emotionally in a state where they can be as raw and as upset as I am, which means technically I'm alone in the situation. If I were to regress all of them to 18, to where I am now, they'd feel the same. But I can't do that. Which means that when I grow up, if I have a child, it is highly likely, even myself as someone who is highly emotional now, do I know how emotional I'm going to be in 40 years when I finally learn that the world is going to step on me and it's all I can do to be a decent freaking stepping stone? I'm a child, okay? But I'm going to grow up, slowly forget everything or get desensitized to the things that hurt children. And around children, I'm going to suck. Unless I manage to be one of those cool moms or like cool aunties. You too, by the way, I'm talking to you too. Unless we somehow manage to retain this pain, which, by the way, I don't think you want to do. None of us do. Unless we somehow manage to retain this raw emotion that we feel, or even a semblance of the emotion that we feel, we are not going to be equipped to deal with emotional, volatile children when we are 35, when we are 45, when we are 75, when we're on our deathbeds 5. Okay? We're not. You get more jaded, more desensitized. Look at me now. If I am to inject my own personal reflection into this, I was furious 2 days ago when I found out things that made me think, why can't they just understand where I'm coming from? And 2 days later, I'm making this video on my floor, sitting like this, and I'm talking about how, yeah, I've accepted it, that we are probably going to become desensitized. If I change my mind in 10 years, whoop-de-doo. But where I am now, which again is subject to change, as is the circle of this video, where I am now, So yeah, that's the whole shebang from me. I'm going to dry my hair, attempt to read a book before my library books expire, and I'm going to sleep. This is an appropriate time for me to use good night because I'm ending the video. Fun fact, the time you get the best sleep is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Do with that what you will. I am going to be half content in the fact that I wake up with back pain and I feel like shit and I'm only 18.